In a recent episode, I talked about how the number one most searched term or question on AI right now about real estate is why is my listed home not selling? And we described some of the things that are going on in the market, but there's another element to getting a home sold today for the most money that I want to talk about. It's not just pricing, it's also strategy and it's attitude. And one of the biggest issues that I see in the real estate business right now is the attitude that most listing agents have when they take a listing. The top elite agents view every listing opportunity not as just an opportunity, but a chance to sell a listing and get the job done. They view it as a likely outcome that the home will sell. The average listing agent or the average real estate agent in the market has mostly worked with buyers if they have any transactions. And so therefore they view listings as a little bit of an outlier. They see them as a possibility they might sort of sell a house, but they really see the listing as an opportunity to get more of what their primary business model is, which is buyers. So their whole attitude when they launch a listing is to put a sign in the yard, put up the marketing, and try to attract buyers. If you look at the majority of real estate advertising that's on the Instagram, Facebook, social media networks, YouTube, print ads, everything, most of those ads, and you may have never noticed this and you may now start noticing it. Most of those ads are real estate agents trying to get buyers. Most of even the top agents in Charleston, a good number of them are putting out content and it all talks about how great Charleston is. And let me show you this restaurant and let's take you to this lifestyle thing and how great it is. And we love the people and we love this and we love that about Charleston. And what does that mean? Their marketing is geared toward getting people to move here and use them as a buyer's agent. That's all well and good. And I don't begrudge that kind of business. Here's the reality. When you take a listing as a listing agent, your job's to sell the listing. It's not to get buyers off the sign. It's not to make yourself look good. All that can be a nice byproduct of it, but the majority of your efforts need to be intentional on doing what that seller hired you to do. And people who work in the buyer agency category, most of these big teams are full of buyer's agents. It's all about lead production. A seller is hiring someone to sell the house for the most money, least amount of time, fewest hassles. And right now, this real estate market with rapidly inclining inventory is proving much more difficult because the attitude that real estate agents are bringing to the listing game is a little bit out of line. The other issue is that most real estate agents are trained as transaction managers. So what they do is manage the transaction. And as a buyer's agent, that's actually a good skill because the buyer is sort of in charge. Once the offer's made and the seller accepts the offer, the buyer is sort of in control of the transaction. It's their finance company, their attorney, their inspection, their appraiser, all of these things fall on the buyer. So it's very easy to get into order taking mode as a real estate buyer's agent who is now trying to sell someone's house as a listing and can't get it done. The reason they can't get it done is because they are not accustomed to actually getting out of transaction management and getting into deal making. When you hire a real estate agent to sell your home, what you're really hiring someone to do is to be aggressive. The very things that people dislike about real estate agents, we're aggressive, we call too much, we follow up too much, we pester too much pressure. Well, that's all bad for a buyer. I get it. That's very off-putting. But as a listing agent, that's who you want. And so what a lot of people do when they're selling their homes, big mistake they make is they choose someone they really like. And they're so nice. And, we really like them. And the fact is they're too nice to sell your house. And I don't mean that to be disparaging. I mean that to be 27 years of experience. I've come behind a lot of real estate agents and many times they got a deal that should have closed. I just had one, $50,000 off of the list price we presently have. And it appears that the net effect of it was that the real estate listing agent prior to me had a buyer in contract. We're $50,000 off after an inspection, and they didn't get the deal done because according to everybody, the real estate listing agent didn't push the process. So that's where the pushy real estate agent comes in very handy for a seller is they kind of shove the deal together because every real estate listing transaction involves selling the house at 4 different points. You've got to sell the house to the market. You've got to negotiate an offer and a contract. You've got to get through appraisals and inspections. Maybe it's 5 steps if you count appraisals and inspections independently. And before closing, inevitably, there's something else you've got to deal with. You're not just paying a real estate agent to put a sign in the yard, take photos, do photography. You're paying them to deal with the process. And a lot of people don't know how to present listings. I see common mistakes is the pool will be photo number 27. A picture of the dock will be photo 19. A picture of a $300,000 kitchen, for instance, or maybe that's a little outlandish, but a couple $100,000 renovation will be photo number 11. Or the one that drives me nuts, but I love it competitively, is they'll put a picture of the front, a picture of the side, a picture of the other side, a picture of the porch, a picture of the back, a picture of the foyer, a picture of the bathroom. And then eventually we get to, I don't know, the pool, the dock, and the $200,000 kitchen. And in the process of doing that, the real estate agent has shot the seller in the foot, figuratively speaking, because they've buried the lead. The lead is magnificent kitchen, waterfront property with a pool. And why do we have those deep within the photo? We have 8 photos when we take a listing. We have 8 photos where we can get the buyer engaged and click the little love button on Zillow. And so if we don't do that the right way, we're missing half the traffic. Great listing agents save deals. There's another point. I kind of touched on this a moment ago, but a good real estate listing agent will identify problems as they are occurring and get ahead of them and solve them, sometimes without the seller realizing it. A buyer's agent is inherently reactive because their buyer controls the transaction. So the buyer's agent automatically reacts to everything. And if they don't put on a different hat when they take a listing, then they're reacting to the market of forces they have no control over. And what that ends up doing to the sales process is blowing it up. And that's why a lot of times, if you are not working with a team like mine that has a buyer's agent, that has buyer agency set up in a certain way that's completely different from our listing process, and you're dealing with a completely different listing mechanism and a completely different listing marketing platform, then you're just using an agent that's kind of a one size fits all. That may be the great buyer's agent that you loved and enjoyed when you bought the house, but they may be a disaster when it comes to selling your house. And the reality of being a listing agent is that the relationship doesn't end at closing. There's a lot of post-closing things that happen, and it's really the case with buyers and sellers. But the disposition of selling a house and moving on to a different market, which a lot of people do, or moving to a different part of the market, is a much different process that sellers need help with than someone who's coming into the market and buying their first property here in Charleston. Those two skill sets are almost mutually exclusive. So we go back to the beginning. Why are so many people searching, why is my home not selling, my listed home not selling, and asking that of ChatGPT and Claude and AI and Gemini? Well, the reason is because these real estate agents that are out there, most of the top 100 real estate agents in the market, not all of them, but a good number of them have never sold in a down or sideways market. They got in the business somewhere between 2012 and 2020, and they had all of this success because a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, you know, the tide's going out. And it's like Warren Buffett said, it's when the tide goes out that you start to see who's been swimming with their underwear off, you know, or their shorts, or they got no trousers on. They look dressed in the water, but when the water goes out, you see the truth, what's covered up by the tide. And so what we're seeing right now is a lot of people scratching their heads. There's been 1,000 properties in Charleston County in the last 15 months where the sellers gave up. To me, that's a tragedy. That's a story that's not being told, in that there are people who want to sell, but they've been convinced, not because the market's really that bad, it's just tougher, but they've been convinced due to poor listing marketing by whomever it was. Not always the case, but the majority of the time that's the case. They've been convinced that their house isn't sellable right now, so they're going to give up and wait till the market does what? Go up again? Maybe. Won't predict it won't, but I think we're going to be at a little bit of a soft market for the next couple of years where prices might actually dip just slightly. So it's a great time to buy. It's harder to sell, but if positioned properly, homes right now are selling, and they're selling for good money. But there's a lot of homes out there that have a dated feel, a dated approach, or a very dated marketing campaign, and they just need a new, fresh look and a relaunch to get sold. My name is Bryan Crabtree, again with Christie's International Real Estate, Indigo Oak Christie's International Real Estate, and my website's therealestateexperts.com. If you're thinking of selling a house, it doesn't cost you anything. There's no obligation. I'm not going to drive you nuts. Let me give you an opinion, a price, tell you what it will take to get the most money in today's market. Give me a shout, 843-343-4141. Thanks for watching.